This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
I'm better than you, and you know it.
A storm is coming.
Oh my God, is that Private Party?
The revolution is televised.
Sammy Guevara.
Doctor, I'll see you now.
Join the Dark Order.
Wrestling has more than one royal family.
You're listening to Music of the Mat on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.
Hello, and welcome to Music of the Mat, the podcast devoted exclusively to the music of pro wrestling. It's all part of the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. I'm your host, Andrew Rich. This is episode 128, and it's another grab bag of AEW themes, sponsored by HelloFresh. And today I am joined by a first-time guest here on the show. He is one of the hosts of the Grapsody podcast, as well as the new After Dynamite podcast, both of which are part of Fightful. It's Will Washington. Hello, Will.
Hello, man. I've been wanting to do this for a while because you've had some of my old friends on the show, but I've never gotten to do this, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here too. Definitely. Actually, I was thinking about this. I think besides Joe Gagney, you are the most experienced podcaster I've had on the show yet, because you started your previous show RBR in '05, right?
05, yeah. I started it June 18th, 2005.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I just celebrated the 5th anniversary of this show, and it's like, oh my God, 5 years doing a podcast. What a milestone that is. Meanwhile, you started when TNA was like 3 years old, and it's going to be 20 this year. Like that is incredible.
Yeah. Are you kidding me? There are episodes in existence of me getting excited about TNA launching on Spike TV. And just the fact that stuff exists. Yeah, I remember I met my wife, and when we first met, I'm like, yeah, I do podcasts. I've been doing it like 4 years. She's like, wow, that's a really long time. And, now we've been together for 13 years. And that is just an absurd, that was an absurdly long part of my life. But yeah, now I'm doing Grapsody every week, every Saturday. And yeah, I just started Day After Dynamite literally the day before we recorded this.
Yeah, I commend you for sticking with it after all these years, because it can be a grind, no doubt about it. Doing a show every week, or in my case, every 2 weeks, it can grind on you, but you're still doing it, and now you got 2 shows at once there, so to still have that drive is pretty cool there, Will.
Yeah, I enjoy podcasting. I oddly enough do. I think the bigger change for me was that I actually wanted to space out what I was podcasting about, because RBR was doing one show a week about a bunch of topics, and I thought, what if I did multiple shows a week about individual topics? And I thought, I don't know, I just feel like I am better spaced out, and I'm not just trying to cram a bunch of stuff in one show, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing now a lot.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, since it's your first time on the show here, Will, I'll ask you this. How did you become a wrestling fan in the first place?
Born into it, to be honest. My dad, my brothers, all wrestling fans. I didn't know that it wasn't a normal thing until I was in school, and I was just bringing up, hey, did you see the Randy Savage match last night? They're like, who? And I realized, this. And I came home and I'm like, did you know that there are people who don't watch wrestling? And my dad looks at me like, yeah, that's most people. And then that's when I realized that it actually wasn't normal. But yeah, I was born into this. I've been watching it my whole life. I don't know a life without it. And I've been obsessive forever.
Yeah, family is probably the number one answer I get when I ask that question to people, for sure. Now, this might be the most redundant question ever, given what we're going to talk about soon here, but has music played a big part in your fandom there, Will?
I mean, yeah, it has been, for a number of reasons. I actually really love. I mean, so here's the thing. I actually come from a family of musically inclined people, and I come from a family of entertainers. My brother's an actor. My other brother is a musician. And so music is really important. My mom actually once sang on, what was the show that Ed McMahon used to host? Was it Star Search? Star
Yeah,
Search.
Star
My mom
Search.
was on. My mom was on Star Search back in the day, and I think it's the first time I've ever said that on a podcast. But so it's been music my whole life, uh, and and then I make music as well. And wrestling music for me is just something that I kind of have a weird obsession with. Like last night, my wife was like, "All right, come to bed," and I said, "I'll be in bed in about 10 minutes." And then 40 minutes went by, and I just lost track of time. And she's like, "What were you doing?" And I was like, "I'm gonna be honest, I was just listening to old '90s wrestling music." And it's just because I went on this weird, I go down rabbit holes, right? I was just like, I want to hear Bret Hart's 20 or his original, not the original. I listened to his '94 theme. And then I was like, I want to hear the original. And I was like, and then they had that really bad version that Jim Johnston did back in 2010. And I went and listened to that. And then I just went down this rabbit hole and realized 40 minutes had gone by when I originally said I'll be in bed in 10 minutes. And this is the kind of stuff I do.
Mm-hmm. Honey, come to bed. Yeah, I'll be right there, sweetheart. Repo Man.
That's me. That's my life. And I don't know why I do this, but I love wrestling themes. I think there's such an art to theme music and wrestling theme music, and how, I mean, it really does control the identity of the pro wrestler. And we just watched at the Royal Rumble how much a non-identifiable theme can affect pro wrestlers, right? Because so many guys today in WWE, and it's not, I don't mean to knock Def Rebel. I don't know anything about Def Rebel, but I will say that all of those themes that Def Rebel's been producing haven't exactly been identifiable. And as a result, and I was at the Rumble, barely anybody's theme music was recognizable in any way, shape, and form. It was like a theme would hit and people would look at each other like, who is this? And they see Austin Theory, and a couple people still went, oh, I don't know who that is. And then I feel like theme music makes all the difference for people.
Yeah, that was a common complaint I saw on Twitter, where it's, throughout the night with both Rumbles, it's like, the timer hits and the music hits, and it's like, whose song is this? It's so generic, I can't tell who it is. So yeah, we're a long ways away from, the days of Jim Johnston and CFOs. I mean, say what you will about CFOs and their loops, but it's like, at least those loops were unique and, stood out in a way at least. So yeah. Now I brought up the redundant part of that question because, like you said, you make wrestling music. You're not just a guy who loves wrestling music. You make it too, which I think is pretty cool. Including a theme we'll talk about later on this episode here too. But also you're involved in a new project for Black History Month. It's an AEW hip-hop album coming out on February 18th. It's called Who We Are, A Celebration of Excellence, Volume 1. It's overseen by Mikey Ruckus, of course. He's the main guy. But, well, you're part of it too, along with many other rappers and producers there. So do you want to explain to people what the concept of the album is?
Yeah, so basically, the album is a collection of wrestlers and wrestling adjacent musically inclined people. And so as somebody who produces music, I actually have really no vocal talent at all. The most I can lay down is a sample of my own voice. I tend to lay down on my instrumentals, but other than that, if I need a voice sample, and I'll just say it into my microphone really quick and then distort it. But other than that, I have really no vocal talents at all. I don't rap. And I guess I can, but I can't write my own. And I don't sing, right? So, but I can lay down instrumentals. And the album is a collection of of producers, rappers, singers, all of that, kind of putting together a music to tell the stories of the Black talent in AEW. We were approached a few months ago. It was back in, I want to say like late November. We were all approached to do this project, and Mikey Ruckus, that man is so talented at what he does, and he just had this amazing idea. And he had approached us really before he even got the green light from AEW to do it. It was really just a, hey, I've got this idea. If you're in, I would like to then take this to higher ups. And we got the idea. We got it greenlit once we all kind of agreed to do it. And I produced 2 songs on it. And I did a song for Red Velvet called In the Mix. And then I did a song for Powerhouse Hobbs called Powerhouse. Original title there. But yeah, and the Red Velvet track In the Mix, the vocals on that song are done by Josiah Williams of Wrestle and Flow fame, and also Equipped and Cutright did the vocals on that track. And then over on the Powerhouse Hobbs track, it is my partner in crime from Grapsody, Righteous Reg, who does the first verse on the song, and the second verse is done by Graham of the Public Enemies podcast. And I had a lot of fun working on it, and kind of just getting to come up with a sound that was representative of those wrestlers specifically. I got to get exactly what they were both looking for, because I wanted something. That's the thing about wrestling music to me, is I always want theme songs to sound like something that wrestler would listen to. And so part of that was, getting music specifically from, getting ideas specifically from Red Velvet. What do you listen to? And some of the ideas she gave me were, she likes Doja Cat a lot, and she likes a lot of reggaeton. And so I thought, okay, that's a challenge, because that's not like anything I've ever made before, but I want to do it. So I did. And that's probably the song I'm most proud of. And I'm really excited about the fact that that is the first song people are going to hear on the album. It's track 2, right after the introduction by Bootsy Collins. Bootsy Collins does the introduction on the album, by the way. But yeah, right after the introduction, it goes straight into my Red Velvet track. So no pressure, I guess. And then, yeah, my Will Hobbs song, same deal of, he wanted something that was kind of more up more in my wheelhouse. He had wanted a sound that was more Bay Area type. And my immediate thought was, like, first off, Bay Area hip hop music is all I listened to in high school. And so I got like excited, because I was almost like, I could probably just dig something out that I like produced in high school and nobody would ever know. And no, do something original. So I did. But what was kind of cool was the sound that, like I said, that was the easiest for me, because it was a sound I knew. I kind of knew exactly what he was going for. I loved guys like Yuck Mouth and Mac Dre, and like the whole Frisco street show scene, JT the Big Figure, like all those guys. Those were all of the Bay Area rappers I was into. And so when Powerhouse Hobbs said that's what he wants, I thought, I gotcha. We don't have to say another word. We got this. And so, yeah, I got to kind of do 2 different types of sound. But I think they both turned out amazingly, and I can't wait for everybody to hear them.
Awesome. I mean, that idea of collaborating with the wrestlers and what they want, that's a big part of AEW music in general. Mikey says all the time that he loves to collaborate with the wrestlers on their themes. And as well, I mean, shit, Bootsy Collins involved, like, that alone is super cool, man. That guy's a legend, yeah. But what I love especially, though, is that I look at the list of people involved on the album, and, I am by no means a rap aficionado. That is very well known at this point, but the names I recognize are all because they're massive wrestling fans. You, Righteous Reg, Rich Latta, Montezzi, Megaran, John Connor, Rated R, Wrestle and Flow, they're all wrestling fans. I know that. And to me, not just using any old rappers or producers, but actual wrestling fans to help make this album and tell these wrestler stories, that really shows just how much passion and care has gone into this thing. Well, that's a super nice touch.
Yeah, I was actually really pleased with the idea as a whole, and the fact that nobody is coming at this from having to really like learn anything. Because when wrestlers and rappers have collaborated in the past, you could kind of tell that they just kind of had things explained to them, or were kind of working off a list of notes. And I think what I like here is that everybody here was aware, everybody involved is a wrestling fan and kind of knew how to come at this, and is coming at it from a place of kind of already understanding. So I was a big fan of the idea as a whole, and I was really excited to jump in and just getting to work on it. And I haven't heard all of it actually, so a lot of it is going to be new to me when the album releases. Like, I've heard Jade Cargill's song, because Righteous Reg is also on that, and also I'm really close with Montezi, so I have heard that one already. But beyond that, I haven't gotten to hear a whole lot else, and I'm excited to.
Yeah, and it's called Volume 1, so, I mean, presumably, knock on wood, there's going to be a Volume 2 someday, perhaps? I don't know. Given...
We've talked about that. I can't say much else, but yeah.
Given how much of a workhorse Mikey Ruckus is, it would be no big shock if there's Volume 2. I mean, you talk about passion, that guy just freaking loves making wrestling music so much, of some kind, whether it's this, the 8-bit album he did, the symphony album he's working on, the video game music, all the wrestler themes. Like, the guy is just constantly working on something, and that passion, I think, has been such a major boon for AEW since the beginning. So I know there's nothing concrete to say about it right now, of course, but yeah, it would not shock me at all if there's more projects like this in the future. There will.
Yeah. The thing about Mikey Ruckus, because like, he got kind of a bad rap when AEW first launched, and a lot of people don't realize why that was, which was, kind of the same thing people say about Def Rebel now, right? And that they felt like there wasn't a whole lot of identity to the early AEW themes. And I think a piece of that people miss is that he had to make all of those in like a weekend. It was like, hey, we've got Double or Nothing coming up. We need you to write a theme for all of these wrestlers for this one show. And so, but as AEW has grown as a brand, and as the wrestlers have developed their identities, he's gone back and he's tweaked some of the themes. He's talked about the fact that like Nyla Rose is the first theme he ever wrote for AEW, and he wrote it for her match at Double or Nothing, the Fatal 4-Way. And then he ended up doing he ended up enhancing it as time went on, and now there's lyrics to it and everything along those lines. And like I said, I just feel like I think he is the best, and that's not just because I know him. I actually genuinely think that he does really great work with these themes, and he's really worked hard at making sure all of these themes have their own identity now in a way that they didn't in the beginning. And like I said, I don't fault him for the way they sounded in the beginning. I didn't think they sounded bad, but I understand why people saw it that way coming out of Double or Nothing weekend, and how it took time to eventually get there.
I mean, myself, I had that critique where during the first few months of the company, the most exciting and I think noteworthy themes were the outside themes. Cody, Kenny, Hangman, Darby Allin, the Bucks, Jericho, of course. And the in-house stuff from Mikey, it wasn't bad, but it just wasn't on the same level as that outside stuff. But I think since then, he has just acclimated himself so well, and his themes have just grown by leaps and bounds to the point where he's made, really, I think, some of the best themes in wrestling, period. And, we'll get to some of them on this episode here today. So, yeah, I agree. He has just stepped up his game tremendously these past few years here, Will.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yes, the topic du jour, as we all know by now, is AEW. We're doing another grab bag of themes here, Volume 2. Volume 1 was with Steve Case, and that was back in December of 2020, so a little over a year ago at this point. And it's a cliche, I know, but it's amazing just how much has changed in that time, with the return of touring and live crowds, a new show, Rampage, of course, a new station for Dynamite on TBS, all the new signings on the roster. I mean, when that first Grab Bag episode happened, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Christian Cage, Adam Cole, Malachi Black, Andrade, Red Dragon, Jay Lethal, Daniel Garcia, Jamie Hayter, Ruby Soho, Mercedes Martinez, none of those people were signed. And that's
Sting had only been around a month. And
Sting, yeah.
And like he just feels like an institution now. I tend to forget that there was a time in AEW without Sting.
Yeah, Sting was like a few days in when that episode was recorded, I think. So yeah, and that's still just like only some of the people they signed too. It's crazy to look at how the company, looks now compared to a year ago or just like 6 months ago even or whatever. It's been quite dynamic, no pun intended there, in a lot of ways there, Will, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it has been.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, a lot's happened, and it's not all been good either. Obviously, there's been plenty of bad shows and bad matches and angles and gimmicks and whatnot, and they certainly have their bag of tropes with finishes and not letting things breathe, and that can get very annoying when they overdo them, I think, for sure. So there's been cracks in the road. Don't get me wrong, it's not perfect at all, but at the same time, you had CM Punk come back to wrestling, right? I mean, you had the Hangman Page story. You had Bryan Danielson just having this insane run of matches. The Sting and Darby tags, which have been so much fun. The Britt Rosa Lights Out match. The Grand Slam show at Arthur Ashe. All Out, which I went to, and I mean, that cage match alone, my God. Hook, for crying out loud. Like, AEW has just given us so many great matches and moments and shows. It's like, even with the annoying stuff, it's so hard to picture what wrestling and American wrestling in particular, what that would look like without AEW, Will.
Yeah, I'm 100% with that. Like, mostly, and it's kind of crazy as somebody who's been covering wrestling for the last 17 years that I've kind of reduced my wrestling coverage to just covering AEW. And a big part of the reason I do that now is because of the fact that I feel like it helps me look at the show objectively. Because if I were somebody who had to cover as I was covering all aspects of pro wrestling, no matter what, AEW just looked like the best invincible show, right? And so it was like really difficult for me over time to because like AEW has its annoyances, and I want to be able to point those out and point those things out, and I feel like now I can. But yeah, it has still been just, I think 2021 is one of those years that's going to be looked back on really fondly, just in the sense of the excitement around the return of crowds, and how much stuff like really happened, like how much of a monumental show All Out really was, how much of a big payoff Full Gear was, and even Double or Nothing being the show with the return of crowds. Double or Nothing didn't even really have a major debut. We had Leo Rush come in the Casino Battle Royale, but other than that, there wasn't really like a big drop into the show, like a really big game changer in the show the way the others had. But it still was just a moment where like the crowd was back and there was just so much excitement in the air. And I think just looking back at last year, it's going to be one of those years that's remembered very fondly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that show being pretty cathartic in a lot of ways, with the full crowd coming back and them just going nuts, and the touring resumed soon after that. So yeah, very cathartic and a very vital show all around, I'd say. And vital is a good word for AEW in general, really. It's been, at least for me, it's been very vital for my fandom these past few years, keeping that thing going, especially given the state of WWE, which is pretty horrible, I think. I mean, it's pretty bad. I did watch the Rumble the other night, and I know you said you were there live, of course, there, Will, but man, that was just a real stinker of a show. that just laid out all of the problems of the company bare, really, from the bad booking to the lack of stars to the music, which we mentioned. So yeah, if there wasn't an AEW that could be a serious major player in American wrestling and provide something else on a big scale, things would be quite dire, really. Even though, again, it does have its flaws, no doubt, but it's still a godsend to have, Will.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, I I don't like to just harp on WWE all the time, but I will say, especially because I was invited to that Rumble. So, but that said, I've probably traveled to like 50 something shows at this point. I have an official list somewhere. That kind of is up there as one of the worst I've ever been to. If not, at least it was the worst major event I've attended. Like, I've been to multiple Rumbles now. I've been to multiple WrestleManias. That was like a really bad Royal Rumble, and I can't think of a worse one I've attended.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when the Mania sign lights on fire twice, that's a bad omen, okay? That's a bad omen right there for you.
Yeah. And it was happening because I was on that side. I wasn't, I was in the section right behind it, so we weren't the section that had to be evacuated. But I could see it. I could absolutely see everything that was going on with that sign. And it was quite a spectacle, more so than the show, as you could see with the crowd not paying much attention to it.
Yeah, I hear you for sure. Yeah. Okay, let's get to these themes here. And we have 10 songs on the docket for today. And it's funny, I brought this up on the year-end episode a few months ago, but man, there are just so many themes in this company we could have talked about. Like, the list here is great, don't get me wrong, it's a great list, but after I put it together, I was like, oh, wait a minute, Pac's theme. Oh, wait, Orange Cassidy's theme. And Matt Sydal, and Lee Moriarty, and Chris Statlander, and Anthony Ogogo, and Powerhouse Hobbs, and like even the Gun Club theme is awesome. You know,
I
but
love
it's
that
like,
new Gun Club theme.
It's like I have to pick 10 and leave the rest out. So, you know, which to be honest, you know, having too many banger themes to choose from, that's a good problem to have there, Will, I think.
Yes, I think so as well.
Definitely, yeah. So, regardless, we'll start off here with the first theme, and it's for Adam Cole, baby, who debuted at All Out last year and has been really one of the most over guys on the roster, easily. So, Cole's theme is by Mikey Ruckus. This is called All About the, parentheses, Boom.
You know it's all about the boom! Adam Cole, baby! You know it's all about the boom!
Baby, my name's like a torch in a tank full of propane. Bring heat, build steam. I got the whole place in gasoline. Sky high, on track. I build an eruption, a jetpack. Everyone bracing the impact. The rally part rolls you way back. No one can ignore. This is what you waiting for. Fire in the hole and then we shine. You know it's all about the boom. Adam Cole, baby. You know it's all about the boom. Baby, my name's like a torch in a tank full of propane. Bring heat, build steam. I got the whole place in gas.
So, when this song first hit at All Out, I knew from the first line it was an Adam Cole theme. Now, the large Adam Cole name on the video screen, that helped too, mind you, but regardless, this whole thing just screams Adam Cole to me. Obviously, you can draw a parallel between this and the Undisputed Era theme. It has that same Rage Against the Machine sound, that same kind of cocky, slunky vibe to it. There is that connection to make. Now, Mikey Ruckus has said that even though he was not directly inspired by the Undisputed Era theme, he still kept that Rage sound for Cole, because it works for him. But actually, he does credit another Adam Cole theme, Something For You, from his ROH days. He took the drum beat from the verses in that song and used it in this one. Same with the vocal delivery as well. So this is definitely a clear successor theme to the ones that Cole had before, Will.
Yeah, well, you know, Mikey's talked about how he didn't necessarily draw inspiration from the Undisputed Era theme as much as Adam Cole kind of gave the same recommendations to both CFOs and Mikey Ruckus, because Adam Cole said that he really wanted a sound that was reminiscent of Like a Bomb, or Calm Like a Bomb by
Rage. Yeah.
Rage Against the Machine. Yeah. And so they both kind of draw inspiration from that song specifically. And then, it's really during the verses that you can hear the inspiration from Something For You, his Ring of Honor theme. And it's But I feel like just having the lyrics in there and all of the buildup, and then there's been 2 versions of it as well, in which we heard the original version debut at All Out, and then when he faced Frankie Kazarian, he used that original version one more time. And I guess there was a general complaint that there's no like spot in the song for him to do his point and boom. And then at Grand Slam, he came out with an altered version of it, and that's the version he uses now that actually has the additional spot in there that Mikey Ruckus added. And I feel like that just made it a complete theme. It gets fans going. Fans sing along with it, and I love when fans sing along with songs. But I also love, but usually that happens, and we'll talk about that with later songs here, with songs that fans already knew. We hear it a lot with CM Punk's theme. We hear it a lot with Ruby Soho's theme. We hear fans sing along with songs, but it's rare that it happens with an original theme. And I like that this is a song that people have only really been hearing for 5 months, right? But fans are into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mikey did a great job here, and not just, putting in the references to the boom and Adam Cole baby and all that, but making that edit, as you said, to allow for the boom thumb taunt to work, because the Adam Cole entrance isn't just him, it's also the crowd. They're just as big a part of it as he is.
Yes.
So, when you have an entire arena full of people doing the boom and Adam Cole baby and singing along, that makes Cole look like a much bigger star. So, yeah, a fantastic job here, putting in the references, but also making that edit to ensure the entrance was, as synced up as possible to allow for those crowd moments, Will.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a big fan of the theme song, and especially considering the, Adam Cole's previous theme didn't really hit in a way. It feel like that theme in particular felt like it kind of fell off. I guess the way I always described it was, it feels like a theme that's like building up towards something epic, and then it just never gets there. It feels like the buildup of a song and not necessarily a song itself. And I felt like really disappointed in that theme. And props to Mikey for coming up with the theme for Adam Cole that just, like I said, it just feels like it hits. I love this theme.
Mm-hmm. And it also it went to number 1 on iTunes Metal, which I think AEW has plugged on every show with that graphic ever since then. But good for them. I mean, it's a rare feat for a wrestling theme to be number 1 on a music chart like that. And it's another sign, too, that this Adam Cole guy is pretty popular, I think. And he's going to be a major player in this company for years to come. That's for sure, Bill.
He is going to be. And I don't have enough things to say about it. I think that just the way the entire song is structured, I am a big fan.
Theme number 2, and this is for the AEW World Tag Team Champions, the Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. 2 guys who have been with AEW since the beginning, actually. Their theme is one that Jungle Boy first used on the Indies. It's by Baltimora off the album Living in the Background. This is Tarzan Boy. If I can do my best Taz impression here. Karaoke Jones over here, but but seriously though, like when this song hits, my mood goes up right away. It's such a jaunty tune. It's so much fun to sing along to with the chorus, and obviously Jungle Boy, Tarzan Boy. It's a perfect match in that sense, and it's a good match, I think, for the disposition as well, because you have to be a certain type of good guy to pull off a fun, catchy pop theme like this. You have to be more on the likable, family-friendly side of things, and that's what this team is. You know, this is not Mox and Kingston. It's Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. So yeah, a great song, a great fit for the team and their gimmicks and their overall disposition as well, Will.
Yeah, I agree. In looking at your notes here, there was a couple of things to talk about with this theme, of course. But I guess to start with, I am a big fan of, again, any song that brings in crowd involvement, which, you know, Judas is I think most known for. But the fact that, you know, from the moment this song hits, everybody gets on their feet, they wave their arms around. I had really high up seats at All Out, so everybody waving their arms just looked like a bunch of worms squirming. It is the weirdest thing, but yeah, you know, everybody gets into Tarzan Boy when it hits, and I understand why. And yeah, I know that, of course, there's two versions in existence of this song, of course, and a lot of people aren't aware of that. Like I've been at shows where people will not even notice that there's another version of the song that's used frequently. But you know, I know why, and I've been a victim of why, because when I was at Double or Nothing, I posted a video of all the fans singing along to Jungle Boy's entrance and how over it was, and I was just marking it like, wow, this is crazy how much this has caught on so fast with the fans. And the day later, my video gets a copyright. I get my account suspended on YouTube or Twitter. My Twitter account gets suspended, and I was flagged for posting this video of Tarzan Boy by Baltimore. Now, I'm sure AEW has all the licensing taken care of for this, but regardless, I also see how quickly it gets flagged if you post it. So there's a second version of the song that exists that was actually a cover done by Mikey Ruckus, and it is only used on Dark and Dark Elevation. And I get it. It's because sometimes when it comes to YouTube especially, the AEW music account got flagged by YouTube once for AEW's own songs. And so they had like a bunch of videos taken down off the AEW music YouTube account. So we know how that can go. And I know that when it comes to uploading shows like Dark and Dark Elevation, like you notice Orange Cassidy never comes out to his actual theme. He always uses the Best Friends theme if he's wrestling on Dark and Dark Elevation. And in this case, when it comes to Jungle Boy, he comes out to the Mikey Ruckus cover. I gave Mikey Ruckus credit for this, by the way. I think it's a great cover. I think AEW could honestly just get away with playing this one all the time. And I don't think anybody would really care or notice all that much, because people a lot of times don't even notice it's not the real theme on the YouTube version. I think they could get away with it and barely anybody would care, and they could avoid issues altogether just never using the original version of the song. But there are two versions in existence, and crowds come to their feet for both. They just hear it open and they're like, yeah, Tarzan Boy.
Yeah, the Mikey version is more of a rocker, I think, and this one is more of a new wave style, so there you go. And I mean no disrespect to Mikey when I say this, but I do think it's also an improvement over the first Jurassic Express theme, the Indiana Jones music, because it does make you take notice of them. They have this real song, but also you do get that extra crowd investment too with the sing-along and the arm waving. You brought up Double or Nothing. I remember watching that show, and when Jungle Boy won the Casino Battle Royale, that was a great moment, but what made it so much more special was seeing the crowd, singing, oh, and waving the arms around, and I think without that, it just wouldn't have had the same impact to me. So I think the choice to, get the rights to this song was a pretty smart move by Tony Khan there, Will.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was actually a fan of the original Jurassic Express theme. And so I was originally disappointed to see it go, because one of the things I'm a big fan of also is original melodies. And it was a very unique original melody that I liked for them as performers. But I now get the wisdom here. I get exactly why this was chosen, and it works, and the crowds love it. And it does honestly make Jungle Boy, especially, just it kind of takes him up a notch and does make him seem a little bit more like a star here. I love it. I think it's a great pick for a wrestler theme song. I think Luchasaurus, still when he wrestles individually, uses the original theme. But also he wrestles so little in singles that you hardly ever notice.
Yeah. Well, I think also what this song did was open the doors for more real songs to come in. Because soon after Jungle Boy got this, you had Orange Cassidy get Where's My Mind?
Right.
You had Mox get Wild Thing, versions 1 and 2. You had Ruby Soho and her song, which we'll talk about later on. So this did kick off the whole licensing real songs for wrestlers thing that they've been doing. And I think that's been a real factor in making AEW stand out from WWE and other companies out there, Will.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Up next is the theme for another champion here, the AEW Women's Champion, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. Another AEW original here. Britt's theme is by the band Downstate. This is called The Epic.
The doctor will see you now.
So I've never really been a big fan of this theme. It's not bad, it's fine. Your typical hard rock mixed with the synths to give it a, well, as the name goes, an epic feel to it, but there's not much else to really sink your teeth into, shall we say. I do like the turnaround part with the power chords and the whoa in the background. I do like that part, but beyond that, there's just not much to this one for me. I think this is actually a case where the entrance video is more noteworthy than the theme, with the blood coming down and the shots of Britt's bloody face and all that. So that's the way I see it, Will. What about you?
Yeah, so this theme was also one that kind of grew on me over time. I didn't like it so much at first, but I guess 2 years later, I can't really picture Britt with anything else. In that, especially when we heard Downstate was doing a theme for her. Downstate, of course, being the band that did so many of WWE's themes in the early 2010s, with Miz and Dolph Ziggler and Cody's theme at one point. They were kind of a staple of early 2010s WWE music. And so part of that is lyrics, right? And so because when Downstate's sound isn't necessarily in the band itself, it's kind of in more so the delivery of it all. And so if you didn't tell me that Downstate did this theme, and of course I've always known Downstate did this theme, but if you didn't tell me that, I don't really see anything that that identifies it as a Downstate theme, I guess. Like it really just could be anything. But again, I do like the synth melody in it, and it has grown on me especially. But yeah, there's not a whole lot to it. I'm actually surprised that it is a day one theme song. It is the song that she had to start at the first Double or Nothing in 2019, and she's had it ever since.
Mm-hmm. And I will say, at least it's not an Isaac Yankem theme where it's just non-stop dentist drills. That's a big plus there, I think.
Yeah, I was just watching SummerSlam 1995, Brett versus Isaac Yankem, and man.
Although, I remember just how heavily they leaned into the whole she's a dentist thing when Britt was still a face, at the beginning there. It could have happened. She could have had the dentist drill theme because, before the heel turn, that was the only thing she had to go on, really, was the dentist stuff. But, thankfully Britt turned heel, and now she's got this, actual personality behind her beyond just being a dentist, and she's a much bigger star now, too. So, her having this epic style theme, it does at least work for her in that sense, Will.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny. That heel turn actually went on a lot longer than people give it credit for. And that, people kind of look back at one particular moment as the start of her heel turn, which was the moment on the Jericho Cruise after she beat Gigi Dolan. Or what was she? Priscilla Kelly, right?
Priscilla Kelly, yeah.
Priscilla Kelly was what she was wrestling as at the time. And then when she beat her on the Jericho Cruise, and then she cut the promo on Tony Schiavone, people always kind of look at that as like the moment she turned heel. That had been going on for like weeks, right? Like, I want to say it kind of started like after TakeOver, the one where she was in the crowd, War Games, where the following week she was then in the crowd at Dynamite, and they had kind of done the mock shot of her at TakeOver.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and that was during they did it during the commercial break, so it was really just for the people who have fight. But then there was a spot where after the match was over, Riho gets jumped by the heels, and a bunch of baby faces come out to save her, and then Britt like motions like she's going to get out of the crowd and sits back down. And that was the start of the heel turn. Like, that went back to November, but the Jericho Cruise was in January. Like, it was actually quite a build to her actually turning heel. Like, you could see where they kind of had the key turn moment of, all right, we're done with her as a babyface. It's going to work. We're going to move forward with her as a heel. And it really started then.
Mm-hmm. And I remember, too, there was a New Year's Day 2020 Dynamite where Britt lost a 4-way to Riho, and afterwards cut like a heelish promo there. So, yes. Yeah, that was the time period where they were, rolling out the heel turn, which thank God they did, because she was dead in the water as a face, but they turned her heel, and it was one of the best decisions they've ever made, really, because she gets monster reactions now, including face reactions, too. She gets cheered a lot of times. So, yeah, a great decision all around to, pivot to that heel turn for sure, Will.
Oh, absolutely.
And by the way, you mentioned Downstate earlier. They're still making themes. They made this theme, but also Matt Cardona's new theme, Chelsea Green, Buddy Matthews. So they've carved out a nice little career there for themselves, making these wrestling themes. I haven't heard a single non-wrestling piece of music by them, of course, but but they've made an impact with these themes over the years, I think, Will.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And because, like, it was interesting that, when there was that exodus of guys from WWE, it was kind of the go-to, right? Of like, okay, we want the sound that was kind of identifiable with us from the 2010s. Like Cody was, he went and got Kingdom done, which Smoke and Mirrors was a Downstate theme. The last version of it was a Downstate theme. And yeah, it was like, let's go with the sound that was most identifiable with us. And yeah, for Zack Ryder, of course, had a version that was done by Downstate as well. So it made sense.
Definitely, yeah. Moving on now to theme number 4, and it's for the former TNT champion and the former best man of one Kip Sabian. It's The Redeemer, Miro. Miro's theme is by Mikey Ruckus, and it's also called Redeemer. just like how the Redeemer Miro was a massive improvement over Best Man Miro, this theme is a massive improvement over the Best Man theme. I love, love, love this theme. It starts with a shofar horn, and then it builds from there with the war drums kicking in, and then the strings come in, and then the choir. It's so beautiful, really. And the visual I get in my head is the Holy Crusader who has come to destroy you in the name of his god. And that's exactly what Miro was doing with this Redeemer character. From the pre-tape promos, to the matches, to the entrance music, it's all synced up to convey this guy as this conquering warrior with both physical power behind him and holy power too. So I consider this to be one of the best themes that Mikey Ruckus has ever done, Will. It's that good.
Yeah, I think that, and the funny thing was, this change came deep into the Redeemer character, that he was still using the Best Man for months after the switch. But yeah, once this hit, it kind of became clear that this was going to be, I hate to use the word epic again, because it's not only the title of the last song we talked about, but it's the title of another song we're going to be talking about. But it really gave an epic feel to who Miro is, and really kind of gave him this Olympia. He already has a very Olympian-like stature, but it really kind of reminded us of who he is, and I think really sells that character.
Yeah, and Mikey has said that he and Miro collaborated on this one together, and they were going for a cross between Warrior beats and the Inception score. And I think the fact that it does go away from the typical rock guitars or synths or hip-hop beats or whatever, and instead goes with the shofar, with the strings and the choir and all that, it does give this song a very heavy cinematic quality to it. Which,
I think
again,
cinematic is the best way to describe that. I agree.
Which, again, is a big part of this Redeemer character. When Miro does those pre-tape promos, it's not just him and a camera. There's lighting, there's music, there's editing. The dialogue is quite theatrical. It's cliche to say this, I know, but it does make Miro seem like this larger-than-life figure, while still keeping him as a serious, legit threat. It's able to ride that line very well there, Will.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's very rare for wrestling themes to have that kind of cinematic type score. And so it even gives this almost like a big budget kind of sound. As a matter of fact, it honestly astonished me. Like I know Mikey has talked about, he kind of got into synth and a whole lot of symphony type themes. When he did, that started to spill over into things he was producing. Like he even added the strings to Cody's theme. And I think, again, it is just such a unique sound for pro wrestling, because as you mentioned, pro wrestling either kind of has two defaults. Either it's rock or it is hip hop beats. And for this to be what it is, it really does stand out. And it really does give Miro such an identity. I am a big fan of the Redeemer theme. And then honestly, he released the collection of the themes as well. And it kind of shows that he also did so much more in putting this together, that to come up with the edit that he did come up with is also pretty astonishing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's on the AEW Bandcamp, this EP called God's Favorite Champion that has, like you said, a bunch of alternate versions of this theme, and they're all pretty good. There's one in particular called Baptism that has this woman doing like a religious type of chant throughout the song, like it's really cool, and it did make me think, like, if they ever want to give Miro like a big match theme, that's the one, because somehow it's even more epic and awe-inspiring and cinematic than the normal version is. So yeah, check that one out on the Bandcamp for sure.
Yeah, they do a lot of those Bandcamp type releases where there's stuff in there that that people don't even realize is out there because it's exclusive to the Bandcamp. Like, they did the whole Kenny Omega album that has all the different versions of Battle Cry, where you can get the full version, the instrumental version that he came out to at Double or Nothing. The original Double or Nothing is also there. And also the version, as they call it, the Dynamite version is also there, which is the version he only uses on Dynamite. And I've yet to see any of that stuff published anywhere else, but literally, like, check out those Bandcamp releases if you never get to.
Yeah, and it's also got the Chicago Bulls / Running Man style intro with the sweepers on there,
Yeah,
so
that's there
again,
as well.
he's a workhorse. He's always up to something with the music. There is good old Mikey Ruckus, that's for sure. So. Mm-hmm. Well, before we move on here, let me just say that this episode of Music of the Mat is brought to you by HelloFresh. HelloFresh delivers pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes right to your doorstep. No car trips, no long checkout lines at the grocery store. It's just so much easier. You can also save, on average, over $65 a month with HelloFresh instead of grocery shopping. So it's money smart too. There's a veggie option, there's calorie smart, gourmet, family friendly, whatever you fancy. And of course, don't forget about dessert with limited time treats like Dunkaroos cookie dough or Vanilla Delight cheesecake. Man, that sounds good. And look, I know for myself, I am no kitchen wunderkind by any stretch. I need some help when it comes to the more involved cooking. And with HelloFresh, look, I got the ingredients right there, the portions all there, the recipes. The prep work is low, the cleanup is easy, it's fantastic. So if you're like me and you want to sign up, just go to HelloFresh.com/VOW16 and use the code VOW16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. Once again, HelloFresh.com/VOW16. That's the number 16, 16. Use the code VOW16 and get up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Okay, our next theme is for another tag team, FTR, Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, former AEW tag team champions, current AAA tag champs, and members of the Pinnacle stable as well. FTR's theme is again by Mikey Ruckus, and it's called Dark Side of TR. I wonder what inspired this song. So, yeah.
Yeah, very obviously inspired by The Chase. Now, that said, I was skeptical with this one at first, too. Because, of course, it was released on Bandcamp and uploaded to YouTube and everything before they had ever come out to it. So I was initially like, wait, this is going to be FTR's theme? Now, I was not a fan of the previous theme. I like Matt Kuhn. I was not a huge fan of that theme, though. Something about it just never really clicked to me. And when this first hit, I thought, I don't see this one either. But I will say, as they've used it as an entrance, it hits. I actually am a fan.
Yeah, I'm the same way as you, with the backing beat and the keyboard melody on top. Like, it's pretty much The Chase, just, 1-to-1 pretty much.
Right.
But that said, like, look, it's still a banger,
Yeah.
This song is still pretty damn good. And we talked about, with Miro, the improvement from the Best Man theme to the Redeemer theme. the gulf between the old FTR theme and the new one here is like an ocean, really, because like this song is as good as the old one was not good. So, is it an on-the-nose homage? Yeah, pretty much, sure, but still, it's a pretty good song there, Will.
Well, and I'd say it's actually closer to the cover the Midnight Express used in WCW, I think is where they used it, than the original, what's his name? Giorgio
Moroder.
Yeah. Right, the original theme, The Chase. I feel like it is actually closer to the cover that was used in WCW, in a way. I don't know.
That's fair, yeah. I mean, look, FTR's whole thing is they're trying to be the Midnight Express. Like Sid Williams had the greatest line ever about FTR. He said, FTR is essentially Leva Bates if she liked Crockett instead of comic books. I mean, that line is just so killer and on point because, yeah, for all their talk about being these, big serious badasses and cool guys, they are just these massive nerds and dorks trying to cosplay as the Midnights. So naturally, they're going to copy the music too. And if you think about it, before they got this one, they already had an homage to an older theme with the Pinnacle theme, which is a throwback to the Horsemen. So, I guess it was only a matter of time then before, their own tag team theme became its own homage, Will.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And, no, I honestly, I think this is, I'm a big fan of lyrics and theme songs. And this is one of those rare times where you went from a theme with lyrics to a theme without, but I feel like you replaced it with a much better melody. Because man, do I sometimes just walk through my house going and like
it's very catchy.
Yeah, it's very catchy. And honestly, I suppose I will take a good melody over lyrics every time. And in this case, yeah, as you mentioned, it is an ocean of difference. I am a big fan of this theme and how well it fits them now.
Yeah. I am curious about the title, though, Dark Side of TR, because when I hear that, I think Dark Side of the Ring, of course.
Yes.
Which, from my viewing, the music in that is also pretty keyboard heavy, but it's also a lot darker and more somber and moody than this one is, so it's kind of an odd choice of a name in that sense, beyond just the TR part of it, I guess, there, Will. But yeah, it's a bit weird to me, I guess.
I think it was just a play on the fact that Dark Side of the Ring was just on at the time. And then also, you have Dark Side of, but then the FTR because of FTR. I think it was poorly titled, but I kind of get what they were going for.
Well, I do respect wordplay, so there's that at least, I guess. So... Theme number 6, and this is for Ruby Soho, the former Ruby Riott in WWE, or Heidi Lovelace on the Indies. Ruby debuted at All Out in the Casino Battle Royale, which she won, and her theme song is possibly the most obvious choice of theme song of all time. Off the album And Out Come the Wolves, this is Rancid with, what else? Ruby Soho.
My bedroom wall. How a party up next door, but I'm sitting here all alone. Two lovers in the bedroom, and the other started to shine. Oh my God, it's this blank stare, a candle clouded off. Destination down, Ruby, 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 Ruby Soho. Destination.
So when Ruby got released from WWE, she was on a podcast with Lars Frederiksen from Rancid, because he's a big wrestling fan, and he gave her permission to use both the name Ruby Soho and the song as well. And you can see her on the video getting choked up about it. So it's a very nice, sweet moment there for sure. And her debuting at All Out with the song and getting the big pop there and the crowd singing along to it, that, I think, put her debut over the top there. And really, look, you can't be Ruby Soho with the punk aesthetic and all that and not have the song Ruby Soho. So thankfully, Lars came through on that end there, Will.
I've actually never seen that, but I was going to say that she is the rare case where a song isn't named after the wrestler is actually named for the song. And I actually thought that was actually kind of cool, because she had mentioned before that she didn't want to go back to the Heidi Lovelace name, mainly because people didn't know how to pronounce it. Pretty sure I just failed at it. But so she was really like stuck on Ruby, and to be granted Ruby Soho by Lars like that, and then be granted the song, and she kind of built her identity around the song. And she's talked about, one of the things she mentioned was when she was originally coming to the ring with the song, she had a very WWE mindset in her brain of just kind of focus on your entrance and don't really interact with the music. And then she said it was Bryan Danielson who kind of pulled her aside and was like, no, don't do that. He's like, you like this song, right? And she's like, I love the song. It's one of my favorites. And he said to rock out to it. Rock out on your way to the ring to the song like you love this song. And that's what she's been doing since. And I feel like it's really made her entrance all come together and make her identify with it. It was a great pick and a great choice of song. People recognize it. They sing along with it in crowds. Great choice.
Mm-hmm. That Danielson guy is one smart cookie, I think. He's got some good ideas there.
Yeah. I think when it's all said and done, there's so many people. I just interviewed Jade Cargill on Grapsody last week.
Right, yeah.
And she dropped the gym that made all the headlines that she was training with Bryan Danielson. It is amazing how much of a mark he's trying to leave on the business right now with so many people. And there's so many people who are taking from that. And I think when it's all said and done, I think he signed to a 3-year deal in AEW. I have a feeling 2 years from now, everybody will have something to say about having received some sort of inspiration from Bryan Danielson.
Yeah, this run's just been an absolute pleasure to watch. And now you got the Mox angle going and this, potential stable of, serious grapplers perhaps. Like it's going to be so much fun to watch where this thing goes. Yeah. But back to the song here. It's very catchy, but that catchiness doesn't really match up with the story of the song, because it's about this punk rocker in love with a girl named Ruby Soho, but their relationship is doomed because he's always on the road. He's singing, and she's there to lend a hand. He's seen his name on the marquee, but she will never understand. Once again, he's leaving, and she's there with a tear in her eye. Embraces with a warm gesture. It's time to say goodbye. Ruby's heart ain't beating, 'cause she knows the feeling is gone. She's not the only one who knew there's something wrong. Her lover's in the distance, as she wipes a tear from her eye. Ruby's fading out, she disappears. It's time to say goodbye. Destination unknown, Ruby, 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 Ruby Soho. So it's a fairly sad story there that is really portrayed by the catchiness of the hook. But, look, that's been the case of so many real song themes over the years, where it's all about the chorus, and the entrance doesn't go that long anyway, so it doesn't matter in the end. I think that's the case here too, Will.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think ultimately people just like the hook and love to go Ruby, 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 Ruby Soho, and ultimately aren't even paying attention to the lyrics. I will say, one of my biggest disappointments in her entrance is the fact that it just starts with the chorus. I think that if it were me personally, I would have her use the whole theme, or at least keep the opening notes and then jump into the chorus, mainly because I feel like it needs a buildup. I feel like just dropping people into Destination Unknown doesn't give them time to get ready for the sing-along. And I would like to see at least the intro added to it.
Yeah, that happens a lot in wrestling, where you got the intro at the beginning, but maybe after a few entrances it gets cut off, which is true for the next theme, I think. But, TV runtimes are a big part of that, I think. So, if you got to cut a few intros out to properly fit the runtime. It is what it is, unfortunately. So, up next is the theme for Andrade El Idolo, the man currently obsessed with that little kid Darby Allin who works for Mr. Stink. Andrade debuted in AEW last summer after Double or Nothing. His theme is by Mikey Ruckus, and it's called Kill the Messenger. So, I'd say that Andrade's time in AEW has been rather hit or miss, but make no mistake, this is a hit. This song rules. I love the prelude, where it has the dramatic build-up, and the mariachi music kicks in, and it has all this energy and pizzazz. There's the Carlos Santana guitar solos in there too, which are just awesome. This is a big-time theme that just oozes cool and badass, and it's a shame that Andrade doesn't wrestle more often in AEW because, I want to hear this theme more. It's a pretty great theme, Will.
I love this theme. I have to say that I like the epic intro, but I recognize why it's not used on television, why they cut it short. I think they used it the one time because I was at, what show was that?
Road Rager.
Yeah, Road Rager in Miami, and he did have the full version, and then he's come out to a shorter one since. I get it. It's a little too long. But this is such a unique sounding theme. And you mentioned the Carlos Santana style guitar. That is such a signature sound and a sound that pretty much everybody knows. The second you hear it, you're like, oh, okay, it's supposed to be Carlos Santana. But it's amazing how it hasn't had a presence in pro wrestling before this. And so to me, I love what this theme added to who Andrade is and how much energy it brings to the building. This is one of, I think, the best original themes to come out in 2021. I was just a really big fan of this one, and I love how much identity it gives Andrade.
Mm-hmm. And I know it's hard not to be reminded of his WWE theme because they are of similar ilk with the Latin music, but there is, I think, a difference in the type of mood they're going for. Because
it's a totally different type of energy.
Yeah, because when I hear the WWE theme, I think of like a soccer stadium and that kind of atmosphere. This one, to me, gives off a lot more class and more of a heightened status to it. And quoting Mikey again here, he said, "Imagine Mil Mascaras stepping off a plane in Mexico to a parade. Classical guitars, horns, marching drums, fans clapping." And that's a pretty good descriptor, I'd say, especially since Andrade's whole gimmick is that, he's supposed to be this super rich guy who thinks he can just, buy anything he wants. So, of course, his theme will also be very self-aggrandizing like that. So, yeah, there is, I think, a notably different energy between this and the WWE theme, Will.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a totally different energy. But again, I was shocked at how well it captured his personality the moment it hit. I'm a big fan of this theme.
Mm-hmm. And the entrance too. I mean, he comes out with the full suit on and the gloves,
and the mask,
the black mask. Yeah. He's got Jose the assistant with him. The whole thing just screams, "I'm the boss. No one can touch me." And again, I want him to wrestle more because it's such a damn cool entrance. But look, he's too busy trying to buy Darby Allin, I suppose. So
yes, I have to say, I am such a big fan of Andrade as a whole. It is pretty amazing how when WWE didn't want Andrade talking, and because his English wasn't so great, and so they paired him with Zelina Vega and all that. And then when when they wanted her to go solo, it was like, well, then we don't have anything to do for Andrade because in WWE everybody has to talk. And then he comes over to AEW, and at first they pair him with Vicky Guerrero, and it was like, oh, this is not a good pairing at all. And then of course, then they swap her out for Chavo Guerrero. And Chavo was fine, but I'm glad somebody realized, I don't know who, that here's the thing. Andrade talks just fine. The thing Andrade struggled with was memorizing scripts. But Andrade, if you're just giving him pointers and just, he's just talking, but he's talking from his heart and not from memory, he speaks just fine. It's not completely clear English, but not everybody's English is. And I love the fact that he is just getting to talk. He is just getting to be just himself. And it's kept short and sweet, but it's so great. Like every time Andrade talks, I pop, I him telling Tony Schiavone, he wants Darby Allin, the guy who works for Sting. And
the little kid who works for Mr. Stink.
Yeah. And he's like, he doesn't work for Sting. How you know? It was so good.
Yeah,
so good. And
I love how he doesn't understand how friendships work because he's a businessman. He only knows money. So it was like with Death Triangle, he's like, Penta, Phoenix, why do you work for Pac? And they're like, we don't work for him. We're a team. He's our friend. Okay, but why do you work for him? Like, come work for me. It'll be a lot cooler. So.
Right, because like Jose the assistant works for him. Like he doesn't understand that you can have friends. That everything's a business relationship. I love it. That is there's so much depth there that there's so many things you can explore with that. I'm such a big fan of the current Andrade character and the things they're doing with him.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Theme number 8, and it's for the current and two-time TNT champion, the Spanish god Sammy Guevara. Sammy, like Jungle Boy, Darby Allin, and MJF, is considered to be one of the pillars of AEW. He's also a member of the Inner Circle. His theme is by Montezzi and some guy named Will Washington. Does that name ring a bell at all? He sounds like a dork to me. I don't know, but But Sammy's theme is called Take Flight.
Sammy Guevara. Yeah. This is my moment to shine. This is my time for flight. I've been grinding forever just for this very night. I've been pushing for many moments like this. This time is undervalued and no one ever could miss. This is my chance, moment of bliss. My feelings so attended. Many could understand it. These skills out of the planet. Be careful, I'm out for landing. The future is mine. Taking it all by design. Knowing so much on the line. Guevara. Sammy Guevara, it's my time just to take flight. Put it on the line. All in the same night. Hustle my way to the top. To get this moment, this future. No doubt we own it. The future is mine. On the line. Sammy Guevara, it's my time just to take flight. Put it all on the line in the same night. Hustle my way just to get this moment. There is no doubt that we own it. The future is mine. I got so much on the line. This is my moment to shine. This is my time for flight. I've been grinding forever just for this very night. I've been pushing for many moments.
So this is a first. I have never talked about a theme with someone who helped make that theme. So, Will, I'll give you the floor here. What was the process like making this theme with Montezzi?
So basically my involvement came about when most of the theme was already completed. And so basically where it came from was Montezzi had reached out to Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara already had a theme made by Mikey Ruckus. Montezi had been doing themes kind of all across the indies, and he was ready to get a theme on television. So he reached out to Sammy Guevara and told Sammy he could make him a theme song. And Sammy was like, okay, sure. And I don't even think Sammy was really taking it all that seriously, but he wanted, but he was going to give it a chance. And so Montezi gets the theme done, and he sends it over to Sammy Guevara. Sammy lets Cody hear it. Cody is like, you need to use this as your theme song. But there's a couple of things that need some tweaking. And a couple of things we need fixed. And luckily, audio engineering is my expertise. And so Montezi hits me up on a... man, you want to talk about short notice. If I told you when I was hit up for this. Okay, actually, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to pull up my calendar. So, the first episode of Dynamite aired on October 2nd, 2019. Right? I was messaged by Montezi on September 24th, 2019. Hey, I've got this theme song that I am working on for Sammy Guevara. And they want to use it on the first episode of Dynamite for his announced match with Cody. But there's a couple of things that Cody wants to see changed in the song. Can you help me with that? And so I was like, yeah, I can do that. And so we get the money together to go into the studio and fix it. And we were able to submit the song. By the time we got it all done, it was like September 30th. And like 2 days before Dynamite, I wasn't even sure they were going to use it. I thought too short a notice. He's going to come out to the Mikey Ruckus theme. I just know it. And I lost it when Dynamite opened and they played the opening video. They played the theme song, and then they did a video package for Sammy and Cody. And then all of a sudden they hear
Sammy Guevara.
Yeah. And I thought, oh my God, they used the theme. They're using the fucking theme. And I was over the moon about that. And that's the first time I've had anything I worked on musically used on television. And Montezi and I have just high-fived about it. We got plaques for the song because Spotify sends out a plaque for plays, and this one's reached 1 million plays on Spotify.
Wow!
So that's a big one, and yeah, it's been wild. And again, just every time I hear it, I just think about the fact that this was such a last minute thing that came together and we were able to do it. And I'm really happy.
That's a great story, man. That is so cool. Yeah. And I remember at that first Double or Nothing, Sammy had that first theme that was a remake of his indie theme, I Am Jesus, which is a rock song. And then at the first Dynamite, he had this one, which is a rap song. So it's kind of a clean break from his indie run to his AEW run, and it's got that loosey-goosey flow to it as well, which I think matches Sammy's persona pretty well too. And lyrically, it's your standard stuff. This is my moment to shine. This is my chance. The future is mine. I've been grinding forever, etc., etc. But I think the whole take flight concept, that is so perfect for Sammy because that man can fly. I mean,
yes, he can.
That cutter off the ladder against Cody is
God.
One of the damnedest things I've ever seen in my life.
All-time great
He
spot.
hit that with perfection.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's a good choice to have that kind of take flight motif be the centerpiece of the song there, Will.
I agree. And yeah, again, like I said, I have a huge attachment to this song because I got to hear it before. And Montezi didn't know either. Montezi was not sure it was actually going to be used. And so when it hit, we both were just like, oh my God, it's on television. The song's on TV. Montezi's done a ton of themes. He's got themes all over Ring of Honor, things like that. But for the TNT debut, for one of the first songs that was played on TNT, for it to be this, I can't be happier. And then he joined the Inner Circle right after, so it was like, my thought going into it was that, it's kind of what Sammy said in his promo last week, that he was like, I was hired to be a supporting player, and look at me now, I'm the TNT champion. That's what I thought Sammy Guevara was going to be. So I was never under the impression that this was going to be a theme song for anybody that was going to be kind of a top player in AEW. And the moment that night that he joined the Inner Circle, I thought, oh my God, we're going to hear a lot more of this. This isn't just, I kind of saw what Kip Sabian's trajectory has kind of been. That's kind of what I saw for Sammy Guevara. I had no idea he was going to end up being who he is, let alone the TNT champion.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's a good fit for where Sammy is in his career, too, where he's on the come up. He's got his first taste of stardom and the spotlight, and his first few championship runs to the TNT title, and beating guys like Cody and Miro, and just, getting really over with the fans, too. Like last year, with that Pinnacle feud, his stock with the fans just soared right up there. So, yeah, lately he really has been, taking flight, so to speak, into that next stage of his career. And, eventually, sooner or later, he might get a new theme, which, I hope you're prepared for that heartbreak. But but for right now, I think this is a good theme for Sammy and where he's at in his career there, Will.
I can't say much about that, but I will say that there's stuff in the works. And
I see.
And the same people are involved.
Well then, we shall keep that scoop under our hats then. So
yes.
Yeah, so our second to last theme here, and we just had the TNT champion. Well, this is the TBS champion, Jade Cargill. Jade became the inaugural TBS champ on the TBS debut of Dynamite on January 5th. And she's actually been undefeated since her first match back in March of last year. Jade's theme is by Nick Goldston, featuring Christone Ingram on guitar. We had The Epic earlier with Britt Baker. Well, this is just called Epic.
A storm is coming.
So if we're picking between Epic and The Epic, I'm going with Epic every single time.
Me too.
This is a gem for sure, and it's not that complex either. It's a mix of bluesy guitar, hip hop beats, and storm sound effects, and that's it. And it sounds pretty damn awesome. Like, it sounds, epic as the name goes, and the ending, where it's just the guitar, the piano, and the rain coming down, that is tremendous. So, yeah, sorry, Britt Baker, I love you, but this is my pick for sure, Will.
Yeah, same. I think that, it's basically a really standard trap beat, but it's I think the guitar that really makes it. When Chris Stone's guitars really come in, I feel it. And it really makes us feel like there's an epic wrestler hitting the stage. And then, and I love the fact that it hits right as her pyro does as well, because I think she's got some of the best pyro also at AEW, and that it's so quick but explosive. And when just the whole combination of everything with her entrance, and yeah, we have the storm sounds, and then the visual with it from her Tron, like everything about her entrance to me feels very well crafted. And I think that this theme song's a big part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that whole storm motif is so on point because she is inspired by the X-Men character Storm. And she does look like Storm with the white hair, too. But even without that, she's still presented as this completely dominant force of nature who just beats everyone. She's undefeated. So the opening stinger of A Storm is Coming, that's not just a Marvel reference. That plays into how she's been presented and booked, too. So, yeah, a good choice there for sure.
Yeah, she's coming and she's about to come kick the crap out of somebody. And I felt, because she had this entrance, this has been a day one entrance. This is something that got modified over time. She showed up with this entrance. It first debuted in the Shaq match. And it was clear that a lot of prep work was done in making sure she was ready for her first performance.
Yeah, it's a great entrance, definitely. And, it's amazing how easy it is to make someone look and feel like a star. And that's been Jade's case since, day one, pretty much, is she still a bit rough in the ring at times? Yeah, I think that's fair to say. But she has a star look. She's got star presence. She's got star confidence. She's got a star entrance. And she's booked like a star who just dominates over everyone. She's already checked so many boxes. And you mentioned the Grapsody interview with her and her bringing up Danielson. If she can keep progressing in the ring under his tutelage, look out. She's going to run the shop. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing her, develop further as the years go by there, Will.
Yeah, and she's already shown those flashes. I think the match with Anna Jay was genuinely good.
Oh yeah, that was a good match. Yeah.
Yeah, so it is pretty impressive that she's already had those flashes. I also think the first match with the first singles match he had, it was very short, but the first singles match he had with Red Velvet was also good. And so she has these flashes, and it's good that it's happening with the people that she kind of trains with, like other Nightmare Factory people. And it's very clear that they're able to kind of put together a little bit something stronger because they come from that same school of thought. But no, I am a big fan of Jade Cargill as a whole. I kind of love the idea of a truly homegrown star, which is interesting because she talked about on the Talk is Jericho interview that she was offered a WWE deal, and she was almost there, and she only turned it down because they wanted her to move to Orlando, which she wasn't going to do. And they also wanted her to give up her endorsement deals. If you follow her on Instagram, she's basically a pitch person for pretty much everything, followed by use my discount code. And so we know Jade does a lot of that kind of stuff, and WWE wanted her to give all of that up in addition to moving to Orlando and signing. And if that didn't work out, who knew? But I just love seeing all this come together, and she really does feel like a star in every way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she absolutely made the right choice with AEW. We can all agree on that. I think that's for sure. Yeah. And you called it, by the way, when they introduced that TBS title a few months ago. You tweeted out that belt has just one name on it, and it's Jade Cargill's. That's her belt.
Yeah.
And you know what? You were right. You got it.
I know. Well, I will say that there was method to that madness, right? Because I had the thought initially of because I had said beforehand, before there was ever a title announced, I looked at the rankings one day and I saw, Jade's completely undefeated. She's got all of these wins on her record. And I thought, how do you keep her undefeated without making her women's champion? You almost have to find a way to get her out of the rankings. And how would you do that? Because unless you make another title just for her. But otherwise, you can't keep her undefeated and have the logic of what wins and losses matter. And then the number one contender, it has the most wins. Number one contender faces the world champion and would ultimately have to beat the world champion in order to remain undefeated. There was so much logic there that I'm like, okay, there has to be something else for Jade, or she needs to beat Britt Baker tomorrow. And I don't think she's ready for that. So something else has to occur. And then when the rumor first popped up, and Andrew Zarian was first TBS title is coming, that was when I tweeted, that belt's for Jade. And I said that because I had already been thinking about how do you get Jade out of the rankings? Because otherwise she'll always be the number one ranked contender. And you have to get her away from them so that Britt can have other opponents. And now she is. And now you can do open challenges with Jade. Jade is not a ranked competitor any longer. and Britt can continue to take on other challengers.
Mm-hmm. And eventually, if you want to make someone, you can have them give Jade her first loss and take her belt and break the streak. So yeah, that's a great ready-made story there too for you. Yeah,
a fantastic story. Somebody, and that could go to anybody and it will make them. It'll be a huge deal when it does.
Exactly. Yep. So the final theme of the episode here, and we've saved the biggest name for last because it's time to send Hook. Yes, the cold-hearted, handsome devil himself, the son of Taz. We all know him. We all love him. He's the best. He is Hook. And Hook's theme is by Action Bronson off the album Blue Chips 7000. This is The Chairman's Intent.
Yeah, you don't even know me. Yeah, you don't even know me. You don't even know me. Yeah, you don't even know me. These 16 bars cost 16 cars. Kiss these balls, bitch, we stars. Fuck that shit, you ain't hot like Prince. Got a little shine, but not like this. Time crumbles when a jet black M5 rumbles. All from what I did last summer. But motherfuckers forget till I'm back up on the set and every motherfucking jump shot wet. Same outfit every day like a cartoon. They'll never find you in a shark suit, and there will never be a part 2. Shit, you're looking at some motherfucking art, boo. Two pumps from the inhaler got me feeling like Morris.
So Hook first showed up in December of 2020, and for a full year, he was a meme. He was Taz's cool, mysterious, hunky son that everybody fawned over. And the thought in all of our heads was, please God, let him be good in the ring, because if he's not, it's going to be a major letdown. And finally we had the debut match with Fuego del Sol, and it was like the biggest Denzel sigh of relief gif of all time, because he's not just good, he's really good. Like, Hook rules. He comes out, he says nothing, he's smooth in the ring, he barely sells, he throws guys around, he chokes them out, and then he leaves. And oh yeah, he's got an Action Bronson song for a theme too. Like, he could not be any cooler, and I'm so glad we're living in a timeline where Hook is just the best, Will. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I was surprised because I wanted him to be good, but also to me he was just like that guy at the end of the Simpsons episode, what was it, the pretzel wagon one, where they got
the little guy hasn't done anything yet.
Yeah, the little guy hasn't done anything yet, right? And so that's what he was to me for the longest time, of like, he hasn't done anything, but he's gonna do something, I just know it. And like, it was a meme, but the idea that he hadn't done anything was also very funny, because it's like, when he does something, you just know it's gonna be great. But like, we were all kind of saying that in jest. We didn't know that it was actually going to be great. And if it did, I almost wanted it to be like a Simpsons thing where like nobody saw it. But but like everybody just got their asses kicked and we're just all laid out. But then we look up and like Hook had just done it. But it turned out that he actually was great. And that was that when a meme like that can deliver, and then all of a sudden now we're into a whole new phase of this guy. That is something, because we've had meme wrestlers for a long time, and you know, where it was like thinking about like Fandango, right? Where, you know, for a week everybody was loving the Fandango, singing along with the yep. But that wore off very fast, and then we were done with it, and we threw him away, and he was never at that level again. And it's amazing that Hook was able to take that and parlay it into being actually good. And now that we know that he's actually good, the fans who were chanting, "We want Hook" and all of that have now stuck with him. And he he debuted against another meme wrestler, right? It was him against Fuego del Sol. And half the crowd was kind of split, right? They were mostly into Fuego as like, the ha ha ha, we love Fuego kind of thing. And then when Hook turned out to actually be great, he turned that whole crowd around to the point of where they were no longer on the side of Fuego at all. I was like, oh, wait, this guy actually kicks ass. Not in like an ironic way where like we want this loser to win. Like he's actually fucking great. And so that was just amazing. And for him to, and then to do it with the Action Bronson theme. That was not something I was expecting. When that hit, it was like, this just was really cool because it felt like just a genuine hip hop theme was being used in pro wrestling. And we don't see that very often at all, but it's also a good entrance theme with a good epic intro. We've used that word a lot here, epic, but I'm a big fan of the way he just kind of saunters down to the ring with his just this badass look on his face with the theme playing behind him. It's very boxing-esque, and I'm a big fan of just the whole presentation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. The entrance is fantastic because the lights go out, you see the name Hook on the video screen, that's it, and then the song kicks in, and the juxtaposition of Action Bronson angrily spitting hot fire while Hook just casually walks out, nonplussed, hair askew, stone-faced. That is the essence of Hook right there. He does not betray that killer that is inside him, which is why the refrain, "You don't even know me," is so appropriate, I think. We don't know Hook, really. All we know is he's Taz's son, he loves chips, and he loves beating people up. That's about it, really. And we're just now seeing, what he can do in the ring, too. So there's still a lot of that mystique left in Hook. And I think this song isn't just a cool song, it helps convey that mystique as well, Will.
Yeah, I agree. The hook has been sent, and they got to play it smart with him, but it's coming along very well.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this. I don't know if you noticed this or not. It took me a few matches to do so, but when Hook wins a match with Red Rum, the Kata Hajime, he doesn't let go of the hold until the beat of the song kicks in.
I have not noticed that, but now I have to. I've not noticed that at all, but now I have to.
Yeah, he keeps it on for like an extra 5 seconds. Then the beat kicks in, he lets go, and he just walks off to the back. And that, again, showing off the killer instinct there that he's going to, choke you out a little bit more there. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. And, yeah, I mean, look, in all seriousness, I do love Hook. I do. And I'm so excited to see his progression moving forward. Because if he's this good now with, 4 matches under his belt or whatever, I can't wait to see him in, a year or two. And the fact that Taz is there to call his matches like a proud dad, that's a nice, wholesome cherry on top there, Will.
Yeah, I love it. I recognize that's probably the only reason he just only competes on Rampage. Because at first I was like, maybe he's not ready for live television, but then they did the live episode of Rampage, and he did it. He worked that episode. So I think it really is just a thing of keeping Taz calling his matches. And also, it's going to be a big deal when he finally has his first Dynamite match.
Yeah, hopefully they bring out Taz to call that one, which I think they will because, he calls the other Team Taz guys matches on Dynamite too, so,
yeah.
I think it's a safe bet, yeah. All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of Music of the Mat. Thank you so much for listening, and Will, thank you so much for being here. I love this episode so much, and you just hit a grand slam your first time out, and I know you're also pretty busy with your 80 podcasts or whatever, so I appreciate you making the time as well, so thanks so much.
Hey, thank you for having me. I've actually wanted to do this show for a while, so I'm happy that I finally got to do this with you.
Oh, you're welcome. A lot of fun, yeah. Any plugs you want to give? Go right ahead.
Sure. I host Grapsody. I'm with Phil Lindsay and Richard Reg. We do the show every Saturday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. We're at youtube.com/Fightful. And then you can also find it on my social media. It airs there. My Twitter handle is WilliamRBR, which is also my Instagram. And I also host Day After Dynamite, aka Dad. That's on the Fightful Overbooked channel. on YouTube, youtube.com/FightfulOverbooked. I host that every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern, right around the time that the ratings come out. And it's kind of a show that just looks at kind of everything at Dynamite and then the fallout. And so, yeah, you can find that as well. Those are the places that I exist.
All right, cool. And Music of the Mat is, of course, part of the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. You can find all the great podcasts on there at voicesofwrestling.com. Follow the show on Twitter at Music of the Mat. Follow me on Twitter at Andrew T. Rich. voicesofwrestling.com/Discord for any discussions. voicesofwrestling.com/donate for any donations. Just click the big donate button beneath the name Music of the Mat. If you donate, hey, thanks so much. You're awesome. And once again, HelloFresh.com/VOW16 and use the code VOW16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. Will, thank you again, and I'll see you around.
All right, thanks.
All right, for Will Washington, I'm Andrew Rich, and I'll see you next time on Music of the Mat. Take care, guys.
Music of the Mat is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. The songs used throughout this show are property of their respective copyright holders.